Good morning, everyone. Well, today I want to start a little differently. It feels like every single day there is something, uh, another headline, another conflict, another market swing, another moment where you stop and think what's going on with the world. And if you're feeling a little tired of it, you are not alone. Because right now we are living in a time where things don't feel stable. Geopolitics is tense, economies are uncertain, markets are reacting to headlines instead of fundamentals, and everything feels reactive. One day market is up, optimism. Next day fear, all based on single piece of news. And you start to ask yourself, can you just get a break from all of this chaos? But there's the reality. But, and this is important, the world has always had chaos. What's different today is the speed. We're seeing everything in real time, every conflict, every policy shift, every market reaction instantly. So it feels more intense, even it's not entirely new. And that creates a kind of mental fatigue because whether you are an investor, a professional, or just someone trying to understand what's happening, it feels like you are constantly trying to catch up. But here's where I think we need to shift perspective. Because if you only focus on the chaos, you miss the structure underneath it. Even in all this uncertainty, there are still patterns. Economies still move in cycles. Markets still react to interest rate. Businesses are still building, growing, adapting. And even with all the noise, progress is still happening. Technology is advancing. AI is moving faster than ever. New opportunities are being created. So maybe the question is not, can we get a break from chaos? Because historically, that break rarely comes. Maybe the better question is, how do we operate in a world where chaos is constant? And the answer is, I think, is clarity, right? Understanding what actually matters and ignoring what doesn't. Because not every headline changes long-term picture. Not every move is meaningful, and not every moment of uncertainty is permanent. So yes, it's okay to feel tired of it. It's okay to step back and say, this is a lot. But at the same time, this is the environment we are in, and the people who succeed in this kind of environment are not the ones who panic. They're the ones who stay grounded. So today, instead of reacting to everything, let's focus on understanding what actually matters. Let's break it down clearly and move forward with perspective. Let's get into what actually happening today in the market, the world, and the economy. All right, so let's take a look what's actually making headlines today. I'm going to go through a few stories and break down what really matters. So, as we know, we are still seeing ongoing tension in Middle East, and honestly, this is driving a lot of the uncertainty we are seeing globally. So every time there is a hint of escalation or de-escalation, markets react immediately. And the reason is simple. This region directly impacts global energy supply. So this is not just political story, it's an economic story. If tension rises, oil goes up, inflation goes up, and that affects interest rates. This is this is probably the most important variable in the market right now. So also, if we look at Federal Reserve posted a loss of $18.7 billion in 2025. So talk about Federal Reserve and interest rate. Right now, the big shift in the market is expectations. Um, just a few months ago, people were expecting aggressive rate cuts. Now the expectation is being pushed back, and that changes everything because the entire market really has been built on idea of cheaper money coming. Higher rates for longer means more expensive borrowing, slower growth, pressure on stocks. So to understand, Fed is still the backbone of the market, and right now they are not in rush to ease. Um, so we're seeing right now is very interesting pattern. Markets are reacting more to headlines than actual data. You'll see big rally one day, pull back the next, and that tells you something important. Confidence is not fully there. Investors are participating, but they're cautious. They're not all in. So let's look at what's going on in today's market wise. Let me bring this up, and we can kind of see. This person always talk about what's happening in the market. Uh,
See what, if anything, continues to make progression on today's session. Obviously, energy markets are global markets, and we know that there's obviously some pressures in global markets right now for energy. So if you'd like to keep an eye, it's probably more if you're an energy trader, got to be aware of that stuff. At the close, Trump will speak here, and let's see what this is at. Celebration for Greek Independence Day in Washington, D.C. I'm sure there will be some kind of a comment about, the war and what's going on. There always is. So we'll see what happens there. The markets will be right at the close, so it's not going to impact us too much on the intraday. We'll keep an open ear with, of course, all the news sources and see what, if anything, continues to make progression on today's session. Obviously, the big headline overnight is that the Iranian leaders do not want to talk peace, or at least maybe they don't like the stipulations of the deal. That's they're saying publicly, but yet behind the curtains, they're sort of like reviewing the deal. So we'll see. But the market doesn't like the lack of progress that's being made on the ceasefire and the peace talks. And obviously, we are gapping down, hence the title of today's episode. A lot of Fed speak after the close as well. We'll see what the sort of net effect of that is, whether or not it's more hawkish or dovish. I'd say you've got a mixed bag here of both sides of the trade. You get the super dove Mirren, of course, who's going to be pounding the table for rate cuts. What are we waiting for? Come on, let's look through this energy shock. Let's get rates lower now. That's what's happening after the close. Friday morning, 10 o'clock time frame, revision to consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. Might be worth a watch there. A little bit of a blip in volatility, but nothing crazy where I would say, oh my goodness, this is the top thing to be paying attention to. Not really. I think the market's going to start focusing on labor, of course, which is coming next week, just to give you a little preview. Tuesday, of course, gives us the JOLTS job openings. We'll watch to see how that first little taste comes out. And then, of course, ADP will follow it up, giving us a preview of what's to likely come as we move forward to the Friday session. A week from tomorrow, we get the full Monty labor report, right? Everything from hourly earnings, which tells us a little bit about wage price spiral, non-farm payroll, what's the rate of change in actual job gains? We know that it hasn't been good. It was negative prior. And then the unemployment rate, which, I think that this morning on the jobless claims, at least watching the continuing claims, we'll get a sense for whether or not this misses, right? And whether or not we'll be on pace to actually hit the number there. So if we just open up the unemployment claims, you could technically see that they still remain, in my view, fairly suppressed, right? Although we're not adding jobs to the economy, we're technically, taking jobs out of the economy. That's what we saw with the minus 92K on the not ADP, but rather the NFP, non-farm payroll, last go around. I mean, this honestly is a pretty, I don't want to say like it's a great look, but it's not bad. It's really not bad. The pressure usually happens when and if initial claims on a weekly basis, right? Those start to get up and over 250,000. That's a problem, right? That is a big old problem. And we're just not even, I mean, could we get there very soon? We could technically, but we're just not even close to it as of right now. Right? These are some pretty low reads on the jobless claims. All right, so that is what we've got on that front. I think that we can close that up. We'll wait for 8:30. Of course, JC, our senior news correspondent, will have us covered. Let's jump on over to the not earnings calendar, but the FedWatch tool first. Sorry, just to continue talking about the idea of pauses all the way out until the end of 2027. As you can see here, October and December is where maybe the market's pricing in a 34.4% odds of a cut, right? So we shall see. The main idea is that the curve is very flat right now, telling us that the market's basically priced in no cuts for you. We are going to be tight on rates and not really moving in a dovish direction here anytime soon, as long as crude remains elevated. Let's jump on over to the earnings calendar after the close yesterday. Carmen.
So there you go. As you have to look to there's not much going on in the economic calendar, but as you can see, there's not any kind of hope for interest rate coming up. Coming down. So we are looking at oil price going up. If we are to see what's going on with the future market, and you would be able to be able to see that future is down, oil is up, and it's up more than 4.26%. That's a huge. Also, 10-year is up. So these are not a good thing for the market. The market is already reacting. It's down almost 1% across the board, and I mean, these headlines, I don't know, they're Trump says Iranian negotiation better get serious soon before it is too late. His threatening always is just incredible how he always. There was this Iranian foreign minister was saying that, we are very tired of how he talks, because he's always trying to, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that for you, if you do this, if you do that. No, I think one of the leader of some countries where they were saying that they're tired of how he belittles them every instant of the conversation. So they might as well be rebellious than just saying yes sir, yes sir. So that's something is turning. A lot of leaders are kind of getting tired of his talk. This kind. I mean, we also saw how Ukraine leader was talking. Anyway, let's finish this off. I wanted to get this technical analysis done that I usually So let me put this on and understand where market is going today and how we should be looking at it. Share this tab.
And then Brigade Bolt here. That would also be bearish for a play underneath 174.25, right? That is what we've got on that one. Okay. I would not really be too interested if this does rally to suggest support in here. I would just kind of be a little bit more neutral on NVIDIA. I don't really like the prospect of trying to get long off of support here with a 20 SMA barreling down on price and a 200 SMA just above us as well. Seems to me more like a short opportunity, right? That's the way I think that this makes more sense. All right, let's go on over to Apple. Apple is still kind of in that right shoulder territory, right? If you were to say left head, right shoulder, I was a little surprised and impressed, honestly, with the bears on the rejection off of 254.65 yesterday morning. It was almost immediate, small little opening range, and then boom, waterfall off right in there. So a little impressed by that. Still inside this zone. So my biggest watch is still like, can we get this and this over time? Is the 20 SMA going to step down for 2 days and look like this? And then we just suddenly have consolidation and then confluence on a reclaim there. That's possible. It's going to take some time, but the main idea is that it's still building out a right shoulder. Now, nonetheless, and undoubtedly, you have gotten strong reactions off of 254.65. You're obviously opening away from that in the pre-market session. So, I'm not saying that this is a top priority right here, right now. Let's just long Apple out of the gates. That's not what I'm saying. You definitely could just noodle around in here, but it's not really my top priority to be shorting Apple.
To be honest, sometimes I actually have no idea what's going on until I open Monday.com. And boom, everything's there. Statuses, timelines, budgets.
Wrecked the last 2 days. Software really taking it on the chin here. So something's got to be going on behind the curtains with OpenAI or insiders selling shares. Something's up here, because this is like much weaker than the broad market even, right? So that's interesting to me. And what's the idea? I really hate the prospect of getting short in the hole down here. I would prefer to see like gap fill reversal and then some sort of a counter trend set up a lower high here. I'd prefer to be a short at 382.25, or I'd prefer to be a short up here at 390.50, something along those lines would be much more interesting to me. If it does just go for the gap close and continuation, you've got a ways to go. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like, there's no range to trade for. This is the April volatility, so there's literally no structure between about 367.50 all the way down to 352.85. Right? That's the April hourly low. The true low from April is at 344. Right? So that is that on Microsoft. Let's continue along to Amazon. What's going on with Nancy here? Nancy is showing us what? Just a ton of crazy price action. Sideways chop lower, sideways chop higher. Just can't make up its mind. Is it up? Is it down? Hate the price action. Really not interested in Amazon this morning. You're opening pretty much smack in the middle right here. So be my guest if you think it's a long to there, or if you think it's a short to there. Be my guest if you want to trade the range. I am not interested. You just don't really have a defined trend here on the hourly chart. Nothing to do. Let's jump on over to Google. What's going on with the Googler? Big break of the daily neckline here underneath 296. Great follow through yesterday. If you just shorted that level, there wasn't really a setup bar for it on the 2 or the 5 minute chart, but if you just shorted that level, that was probably the easiest trade of the day yesterday on Google. Just had to trust the number. In terms of the gap down this morning, that's certainly putting more pressure on for this head and shoulders to actually break down. Here it is on the daily time scale, right? This in here is absolutely starting to get crushed, and the gap down is just putting us further into this prior range. So I would think that the fall from grace is starting on the Googler here, and the more time it spends sub 296, the more bearish it gets. So looking for gap fill reversal and any sort of continuation in the downward direction. Let's jump on over to Broadcom. Daily chart here sucks, so I think we could actually just stay on the daily chart for a second. What do you do with this? What is there to do inside of this? You tell me. Probably not much, right? Not much. Microsoft is being punished by Anthropic and being an IGV. Yes, maybe, but I don't know. I think that there's got to be something else going on behind the scenes. So anyway, Broadcom, nothing to really do with this sideways range here. I do have to give the bears, obviously, some credit. You're staying below the moving average cluster, so you're underneath the stack. This is technically just a lower high. I mean, you could have maybe a flush point sub 309 for continuation. That's a possibility. TBD. TBD on Broadcom. Let's go on over to the Metaverse. Metaverse, we can get back down to the hourly chart for 9:15 on the clock. We're doing fine on time. Getting a little bit of a bear flag breakdown here if you want to consider this your little flag, pennant, whatever you want to call it. Certainly gapping down in a notable and meaningful way. Obviously, we saw the headlines yesterday and this morning about Meta being punished, of course. So with that, you are lower into this 583 area, and perhaps there's like, you know, I really don't want to be short at 583. I would prefer to sort of look for this counter trend on Meta in the upward direction. If Meta can close the gap above, that would be a better long, in my opinion, possibly looking at the broad market to be a helping hand in figuring out whether or not that is going to be a good idea, right? So Meta, 583 possible support to close the gap above, up at 592.25 previous day low. That's my watch there. When we get here, of course, like gap fill reversal, sure. Shorts off of that level, absolutely. Inventory correction, no problem. The reason for this, right, is if you look at the daily chart, pretty major low back here. Major low. I don't really want to be short into that low, especially after a breakdown from the bear flag. Right, you've made a pretty, I don't think Meta has had, let's zoom into this for a second. Meta has not had a green day in, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 days of red. Now, it does, I'm not going to sit here and say that candle counting is a successful strategy. It generally isn't. But I would not be shocked if Meta finally said, you know what, enough's enough. Like, buyers are going to step up here. Or even, it doesn't have to be that buyers are stepping up. It's just that shorts are like, okay, I can see the left side target. I'm going to close out some shorts. What does closing a short do? Provides buying pressure, right? So 583, watching that. Let's go on over to Tesla, see what's going on with Tessie. Nice gap down this morning. And this, you can see your opening right about in here. So on Tesla, two things, either a gap fill reversal for a short up against previous day low and the neckline rejection, 387.25, or potentially just bearish consolidation that persists. And then the flush here, I would be interested in underneath 377.25. If we could take that out, looking for the equal low down here, 365 as the major target. Right. So Tesla, nice lower high on the daily chart, and just looking for continuation now out of this name. All right. Tesla continuation lower after a lower high. Let's keep going. Let's take a look at JP Morgan. Financials kind of getting cracked this morning, but not really a gap down here on JPM. If you look at XLF, it is gapping down. Over here it was when I was looking pre-market. It is still
all right. Let's move on
rather earlier, I shall say. And JP Morgan is just kind of trying to hang on. It's doing its best to hang on to this 292.50 right around in here. We'll see if that ultimately yields to some kind of a higher low, and maybe there's a turnaround story ahead of earnings, which are coming up mid.
So let's share this.
That is red by 2%. Planet Labs is up a little bit, but basically flat on the day. How about Lunar, which was up 20% yesterday? Lunar is now down 3% on the day. Fastly, I don't know how the street is in love with this name, but man, they are in love with it. It's a software name, but I guess it's a CDN, so it's not seen as a software name. That's up 2%. It's up 200% for the year. If you're in this one, congrats. This has been a really good hedge against the other software names that have just not held on to their momentum. Salesforce and Adobe go green. Salesforce and Adobe go green. VCX, that venture fund that is pitching Anthropic at $5 trillion, is up 11%, 420. It was 570 yesterday, so it is down from the highs, but it is at 420 right now as we get into the market open. VG, that's up 2. Orbs is up 1.4. Bitcoin, 69.5. AppLovin, and again, that report that came out that Meta is going to compete with them, which I don't even know exactly how Meta is going to compete with them, but that was the headline. 402, 8% down. 8% down. Wow. Iranian reports. Iran's response to the 15-point proposal from the U.S. was officially sent through intermediaries last night. Okay, that's kind of bullish. And the reason that's bullish is because, number one, Iranian media is confirming there was a 15-point proposal sent. I think we can at least get away from that debate on if it was sent or not. Number two, they're confirming we sent a response to the US. Now, maybe that response is 2 words. The first one rhymes with duck, and the second one is you. But at least there is some level of communication, even if the market does not really think the communication is going well. S&P, 0.85 down, 0.85 down, 651. 651. Microsoft losing 370 right here, 369. NVIDIA, 176. Palantir loses 150. Palantir loses 150, 149.80, as that is down 3.2% on the day. Kratos is down 2, Lemonade's down 0.5%, Oscar's down 1, OSS down 2.7, CrowdStrike's down. I mean, it's a bloodbath, but it's not that bloody. Like, it's red, but it's not like 7-8% across the board. It's more like 2 to 4% across the board, which is, you know, it's not fun. A lot of these names were up 2 to 4% yesterday, so they're kind of just like Rocket Lab's just giving back the gains that it had yesterday. You know, it's not like it's completely hitting new lows. In fact, Rocket Lab, I think, was up 9% yesterday. It's down 2% here, so okay, it's giving back 7% of those gains. But what sucks about it is it's a slow bleed, right? That's the part that is not fun about it. Donvin, thank you for the super chat. Bell Gang, hashtag never mute. Thank you, Donvin. I appreciate it. I deeply. But now that I'm telling you guys not to mute it, you guys are just going to be spamming that you're muting it, which is fine. That's okay. Just saying, got to let yourself get immersed in the bell every time we have to ring it. ServiceNow, that goes red. Salesforce lost its red. Adobe lost its green. Salesforce lost its green as well. Tesla is not looking pretty, potentially below 380. Where's Uber? The VIX is at 27, so we're not at VIX 30 yet. Uber's flat. Is Grab still green? That's crazy, bro. I don't know how the hell Grab is holding up there. 376, up about 1% on the day. SPY isn't giving up 650, which is encouraging. SPY isn't giving up 650. Once again, this is why the covered call matters. This is why the covered call matters. Either you sold them yesterday or maybe you sold them a day early, the day before yesterday, where we had the really big green day. But if you at least sold it over the past couple of days, that is what's hedging the downside today, at least to some extent. So I do think that's important. Meta right there at 578. The VIX, again, inching towards 27. What's the 10-year? 4.3. It's not at 4.5 yet, but you know, it's still not good. VIX is up 7%, 27.20. 27.20. I mute and I turn my speakers off. I do feel bad. Some of you guys that have pets have to deal with the bell. By the way, dude, my algorithm is showing me so many dog videos. Like, I need a dog. I know I'm not going to be able to take care of the dog the way I need to. But I freaking want the amount of golden retrievers showing up in my freaking algorithm. Like, I'm just staring at these videos, almost crying, bro. I want a dog. But I can't take care of it. I cannot take. Also, the bell would probably freak out the dog every day. Reddit right there, 134, down about 3.6. GE Vernova down 1.2. AAOI, your photonics names are down. Nike's down. Chewy's up. GameStop's up a little bit. United Airlines up. Oil, are we at crude? Are we at 95? We are at 93.80. So still up. We were at below 87 yesterday, which was encouraging. VCX just fell pretty heavily, 337 from 420. So look, you really only won on VCX if you bought in after the IPO. You probably had paid a premium to the IPO price, but you still got like a 4 or 5x. If you bought in before it IPO'd, I mean, you haven't won anything yet. You have to wait 6 months to see if this thing holds up, which I imagine it will hold up, but I don't know if it's going to hold up at these levels. So really, this was a trade for people that got in after it went public, not before, because you're in a lockup. You can't do anything with your shares right now. And who knows what the market environment's going to be like in 6 months if these valuations are able to be sustained by these private companies. Microsoft still red. Wow, a lot of you guys have dogs. A lot of you guys have dogs. Satellogic is up. This stock, dude. Talk about the stock of the month. It's freaking Satellogic. My goodness. And it could go down as easy as it went up, but it feels like the SpaceX IPO plus the earnings really helped them to get some momentum. Okay, we got another update from Iranian state media. Tehran's conditions include ending attacks and assassinations, guarantee the war won't restart, full compensation for damages, and a region-wide end to fighting involving allied groups. Okay, so that's the first condition. Second argument, it also insists its control over the Strait of Hormuz is a natural and legal right. So they're once again advocating for sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, Iran says it does not trust U.S. negotiations. That's basically saying that Kushner and Witkoff stabbed us in the back, calling them a deception aiming at appearing peaceful, keeping oil prices low, and buying time for possible new military action. Well, look, here's the problem that we're having right now with all this. Here is the issue. If the United States says, hey, you can keep the Strait of Hormuz, and yeah, we're going to stop like all the attacks, we get nothing out of that. We get absolutely nothing out of that. We don't get them to stop their nukes. We don't get any control over the oil. We don't get any regime change. We get nothing. So that's a non-starter. There's no way Trump could agree to that deal. I mean, there's just no way in hell the administration would agree. It's either that or boots on the ground, and I think 100% of the time it would be boots on the ground over agreeing to that. So that's a non-starter. Which is why the Iranians are saying, we don't really trust any of these negotiations, and we think they're going to try to attack us because at this point we're at an impasse, right? Like, we are not giving up the Strait. They are not giving up any of
they're not putting boots on the ground. They'll be losing law.
And if that's the case,
and midterm is not,
then things are going to get ugly. Now, that's the bearish perspective. AMD right there down 1%. The bullish perspective is there actually is some level of a deal happening beneath the scenes that the media is not reporting about because they're trying to keep it super low key. And Trump is saying what he wants to say, and Iran is saying what he wants to say, but maybe in a week they're going to come out together and say we've reached the deal. That is the more optimistic view that maybe the markets want to take. I think that's the view they've had over the past couple of days, and then today that view is kind of going down the drain. But I think it's either boots on the ground or you get a deal. But there's no middle. There's no middle where Trump's like, oh yeah, they get to keep everything and we just leave the region. It's like, then what was the point of it? And then the American people are going to be asking, what the hell was the point of this? Just to kill the Ayatollah for his son to get in power? He was already 85. What exactly was the reason? So once again, we're stuck in purgatory of trying to figure out how this ends up playing out. Luna right there, that's down 2.4%. Adobe and Salesforce and ServiceNow actually flipping green, which is just weird price action given the rest of the market's going red. Kind of makes me think the algos are just going back and forth today. Meta, 52-week low, 575. 570 freaking 5. Right here. Amit, I hear your thesis, but what about Trump's plan to attack their energy right this weekend if a deal isn't reached? Well, we have 48 hours, and we don't know if Trump's actually going to follow through on that. If he does, then I think the market's going to be upset about that. I mean, that's just full for attacking their energy infrastructure. Yeah, this war is continuing, and everything that he's been saying about peace this whole week goes out the window. That was all BS at that point. But if he delays it again and tries to say we're making good progress. I mean, remember his tweet on Monday before the markets opened, and also right after someone bought $1.5 billion worth of futures, ironically, just a nice coincidence. He said negotiations are going well. He said we're doing great. He said we've had productive conversations. And then today he's like, the Iranians are begging us for a deal, but they're lying in public. So there's just so much he said, she said going out there that I don't think the markets at this point even know how to fully determine what the hell's going on. And I think that's why we're red. I think that's why we are red. S&P, NVIDIA losing everything it got yesterday. Literally everything it got yesterday going out the window. Iran losing 40. Robin at 71.96. Meta 576. Where is Microsoft? Are we below 370? No, Microsoft goes green. Okay, so some of the software names getting some love. It's almost like they've got so oversold that something needs to step in, which is at least kind of bullish for the day, but still bad. Still pretty ugly. Iranian media citing an informed source, Tehran is now waiting the other side's response to his position on the American proposal. Okay, so again, it goes back to what we just talked about. Either the Iranians are telling us in public that they want all of these amazing things and they're not going to give up anything, and that's their actual proposal, and they're now waiting for a response, or they're telling us they're not going to give up the Strait of Hormuz. They're telling us they want full reparations, but in reality, they're okay with giving up some parts of the Strait. They're okay with not getting full reparations. They're okay with getting rid of some of their nukes. Like maybe behind the scenes, they are actually seriously negotiating in a way that is meaningful. Again, we really don't know. Hopefully, we'll find out by the weekend. But at this point, the market is obviously assuming the former versus the latter, which is why S&P is red. Although we did get a green candle right there, up from 650. 650 to 652. So we are still red, but we were not as red as where we were before. We were going to lose 651. No one is lying about this. Negotiations are up and down. No one shows their cards. It's a process and it's confusing, but it is a process. I agree with that. I mean, and eventually we will know what happens either by force, and we see that we're going and we're putting boots on the ground, or we have some type of a deal. But the reason everyone is confused and should be confused right now is because, yes, negotiations are incredibly confusing and everyone can assume what they believe will happen. But until we actually get direct details, which has been the story of the past couple of weeks about all this, right? I mean, no one fully knows. IGV recovering above 80 as you're seeing more of this momentum to the downside. AppLovin 398, that's down 8.7%. Is Walmart green? Walmart almost green on the day. 10 years moving up 4.364. It was at 4.33, so you are seeing an increase in the bond market. Hoodie trying to go green as well. Again, Hood's going to really need the market to participate, even with that share buyback that was announced, 72.52. Tesla trying to get a little bit of green as well. Again, we looked at that headline from the Wall Street Journal. Most investors see a ceasefire by end of April, as per Deutsche Bank. We got a couple OpenAI headlines. They backed a new startup. NVIDIA is also backing a new startup last night. So we got some more AI startups raising capital right now, which, the fact that they're raising capital is at least somewhat bullish about the amount of spend that's still in the system. S&P 653. Trying to move up. ARM had a great day yesterday. I think ARM is a little overextended given the amount of momentum they got, but they definitely deserve a premium for 5xing their revenues in the CPU market. I think that's also what pumped AMD yesterday. But ARM right there at 158 down from 161. AMD down 2%. AMD down 2%. Netflix went green as well. Netflix. Are people still buying Netflix, or are people done with it after the 70 lows? I don't see that many people talking about it anymore. I think most people, retail got this one right this year. Retail called BS on the Paramount acquisition, and Netflix ended up walking away with $3 billion. However, as bullish as it was, Netflix still does have a big problem, which is that they don't have good content. They just don't, and they need a lot more content. And I know they bought Ben Affleck's AI studio, which reportedly was $600 million, which to me is kind of insane, dude. $600 million. That's more than $500 million for an AI studio. Are you kidding me? I don't know the terms of the financials of the deal, but it sounds like they were buying Ben Affleck more than they were buying the studio. But they need more content, and Warner Brothers at least was offering that. So now they're gonna have to figure out how to make it themselves. The VIX is going down, folks. Okay, we're getting our 947 reversal because why not? VIX now is only up 5%. Robinhood flipped green. S&P, do we have a green candle? S&P, it's a pretty nice one, 650 to 653. Still down 0.5% though. At least it's not down full 1%. VCX halted. Oh my, this is down 30%, folks. 271. Whoever bought this at 572 yesterday is now down 50% on this. Yeah, it's halted. 271. I wonder if that's halted to the downside, which means there's a lot more downside, or you can buy yours to step in. It IPO'd at 30, so it's still up a lot, right? Wow, look at her go. 654 S&P. She's really trying. She's really trying to move on. Citron is short VCX. Well, but okay, they must be using some complicated instruments to short it because, or maybe it's just Robinhood that doesn't let you short it, but I don't think you're allowed to short it on any of the retail brokerages. There's barely any shares in the float to short. Yeah, they just tweeted they're short. This is one of the easiest shorts ever. Granted, things can get crazy in the private markets, and maybe it's not the easiest short ever, but I can't blame Citron for being short. This is stupid, bro. This is actually stupid. But brokerages, I don't think you can easily short it on. You can do synthetic shorts. It's hard to borrow on Schwab. Yeah, I would imagine the borrowing rate is a bit more aggressive. Look, again, I like the companies in VCX, but you cannot justify paying a 3,000% premium to the net asset value. Like, what are we doing here? And the worst part is this is all retail. There's no institution on the planet paying 3,000% of a premium for SpaceX, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Databricks. And if they are, it's the dumbest institution ever. Like, they can get access to this stuff without, but it's all retail doing this stuff. And it's annoying as a retail investor. It's like, why does retail do this? Like, this stuff is so stupid. As a trade, it's a different question. But if you're like, oh, I'm going to go long SpaceX and OpenAI by buying something at a $8 trillion valuation, we've just lost all logic at this point. All of it. Ondas, are we red? We are trying to recover. 10.05. That's up a little bit. Robin at 72.50. Tesla 382.72. SMH is also down. AppLovin is down 8%. Microsoft's green. I mean, you're not seeing a lot of headlines other than the Iranian response, which no one knows exactly if they are lying about what they actually think about the negotiations or if they're, once again, holding their position strong, which is that they're not going to give up anything and they just want the U.S. to leave. I given what has happened about the Strait of Hormuz ever since this operation happened, I don't think Trump would ever want full sovereignty of the Strait now being placed on the Iranians, because now he knows they can hold up the entire global economy, which you would think he would know that before entering the war. But I really don't think the administration thought that would happen. I think they thought it would just be, oh, let's get rid of the guy and we'll be done. And they found out, like, unless they want to legit have a war on the Strait with their Navy versus the Iranian Navy, then if they don't want to do that, yes, the Iranians have control over it. It is what it is. So I don't think in this negotiation he would want them to keep control, but I damn sure don't think the Iranians are going to want to give up control, which is why we might be at an impasse here. CoreWeave went green. CoreWeave went green slightly. Fundrise is unhalted and it's down again from 270. Now it's at 263 as that continues to go down. Mid, is anything a screaming discount for you? No. Honestly, no. Like, could I say theoretically something is a screaming discount like a Microsoft or NVIDIA? Of course I can. But I will say the same thing I said last week and the same thing I said on Monday. Unless you think the war is legit coming to an end, there is no bottom in sight. Now, you might have a name that's down so much that you feel comfortable buying, like an NVIDIA, which I have been. I haven't bought in a couple weeks, though. One of your favorite names might be down so much where you're like, dude, I really want a Micron at 470. Now it's at 370. I really believe in the thesis. Like, I want to buy it. That's fine. But to say that it's a great buy, to say it's a V-shaped recovery, to say that it's Trump saying it's time to buy the dip and it's like robbing it at 30 last year, it's like, no, there's no deal that's out there, because all of those deals would be contingent. The multiple wise, they might be out there. When you look at Adobe's free cash flow multiple, it looks ridiculous for the size of free cash flow that they bring in. Adobe going green on the day. But everything is contingent on the war and oil prices. And until that comes to a conclusion, how can anything be a screaming buy? Unless you think that the war is going to come to an end soon. Google right there, 286. As that's also down. Why is Mara up big today? Okay, so Mara, I'm happy you brought that up. They sold some Bitcoin, which kind of helped them pump today. Mara announced, they repurchased $1 billion in convertible notes at a 9% discount. Oh, yeah. So they did. Okay, so they sold Bitcoin to buy back their convertible notes. They sold $1.1 billion in Bitcoin. They sold 15,000 Bitcoin at 72,600, and they repurchased $1 billion in convertible notes at a 9% discount to par value. So they did not hodl their Bitcoin. MicroStrategy has never done something like this. That's, Saylor would, I think, literally rather die than sell his Bitcoin. So, Marathon's a different breed here, but that's how they're funding some of these purchases. Saylor's actually diluting by another 21 billion. They filed an ATM a couple days ago. So one side is getting ready to buy the Bitcoin that the other side is selling. But it goes to show Marathon is not really in the AI data center HPC place like the other Bitcoin miners have transitioned to. They're still stuck dealing with the ramifications of holding on to Bitcoin that is not performed pretty well. Meta right there at 5. 79. Why is Red Cat red? Well, Red Cat still has a high beta name, along with Ondas and Kratos and all those guys. The drone stocks are down. What about Oscar? That's 12.18 flat on the day. Shopify is up 1%. Your software names are actually kind of holding on right here. Your semis are all
I
red,
have a
except a
feeling
few of them.
we're gonna
SAS
end
is all
up
green, except
closing closing green today. So I think today is the bottom. Like I think today is the bottom. I think not a financial advice, but I think today is the bottom. From here on, I think the market will be done with last 6-7 months of craziness, and we'll end up with the March Madness. All right, let's see. Let's see what happens. All right, I gotta go, guys. It's 10 o'clock, and I'm out.